Okie dokie. Let's start with our nose. I'm going to go first if that's okay with you.
Because you were having a good holiday until this moment.
I was having a good holiday.
Okay.
I was. And I was in a little town and I was in the post office of this little town. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'll get the newspaper, will I?
Yeah.
We'll do the quiz, the Good Weekend quiz. And I got to the Good Weekend and I had a look and I thought, wow.
You were having a good weekend.
I was having a good weekend. Well, now I'm no longer having a good weekend because what is this?
Yeah, no apologies. Well, one thing I can confirm is that is true because she does not apologise.
No.
Fact checked, confirmed. Ita Buttrose does not apologise.
And if you were expecting one, expect one no more. Not that you were. Anyway, my no is around the kind of redemption tour that Ita Buttrose is having at the moment because she's releasing a book called Unapologetically Ita. And it sort of started here on the cover of The Good Weekend, which, had you saw that, no apologies. On the inside it says, the survivor. After a 6-decade trailblazing media career, Ita Buttrose remains as sharp and opinionated as ever. And so the tenor is already really set from the cover that this is going to be a bit of a puff piece. And that's mainly because it is flogging her latest book.
Yeah, over like 6,000 words.
Oh, it was long. It was long. And I'll just give you a quick breakdown of the story. It starts with where she's at now, her health, her sharp mind, where she's come from, her father, her parents' divorce, all the times that she was appointed to, the editor of this and the editor of that and the editor of this, her divorce, her setting up her own publication, all of the good fights that she's fought. There was a bit of talking there about the fight that she's fought against HIV/AIDS. And then we get to her appointed by Scott Morrison as the chair of the ABC and how she stood up to a number of outside forces as chair. Okay? We're already about 4,500 words into this 6,000 word piece before we get into anything that makes this particular cover story relevant.
Big exhale. Okay.
Which is what happened with you. Like, this piece could have been written at any point in time. It could have been written 5 years ago, essentially. I mean, before she became chair, but all of the rest of the information could have been written 5 years ago. And the piece calls what happened to you, your unlawful sacking at the ABC, calls it one of the most potentially damaging controversies of her career.
Are there others of that caliber?
I mean, I suppose if you're going to have a 6-decade career, there are going to be some controversies.
Okay.
But this has been one of the most potentially damaging controversies. Yet, it's not until you get 80% of the way through the piece that only a few paragraphs are dedicated to the most damaging controversies. And Ita saying things that are essentially not hugely supported by the evidence in the trial. I'm going to give you one example. There's one bit where the author writes, "Did she want Lattouf sacked? I didn't think it was necessary," she tells me. Which is weird because that feels like it goes against a lot of the emails that I've read, including one where David Anderson writes that you leaving the ABC is going to be part of a managed exit. And Ita Buttrose responds, "Managed exit? Really? We should be in damage control, not managed exits, David." And it also, the judge in your trial found that she wanted you gone as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, did she forget about the COVID? Has Antoinette been replaced yet? We owe her nothing.
I mean, those were in the piece, but I don't know whether the journalist asked her specifically to respond to those, but if he did, her response was not included in the piece, specifically responding to can she get
But her alternative
COVID.
reality was.
But the way that she saw it was. And there's so much talk about like her strong leadership, but in the piece, essentially she blames David Anderson and Chris Oliver Taylor. She says, David told me to forward all the complaints to Chris Oliver Taylor, and Chris was relatively new at the ABC, so perhaps he didn't know the ABC's guidelines. So it wasn't me. It was David Anderson. It was Chris Oliver Taylor. Are you okay?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm okay, to be honest. I mean, I didn't expect an apology, but I didn't expect this kind of warped reality PR tour that's just like completely devoid of facts and a very ironclad federal court ruling. Like, he says, Ida's actions, Justice Rangi says, that her pressure contributed to Mr. Oliver's view that he needed to act quickly, that the ABC as a whole capitulated to pro-Israel lobbyists,
Right.
that they let the Australian public down. Like, even if Ita wants to do some kind of like 1980s style, you know, or 1990s Shaggy, it wasn't me, the journalist has all of the evidence and a responsibility to their audience to not think they're fucking stupid. And to be like, oh no, I didn't do it. And to publish that with any kind of, without enormous amounts of skepticism and pushback.
And there really wasn't.
Or don't include it at all. So it could be like, she says she didn't do it or whatever. And it's just like, well, she may have said that. You know, the analysis should then, particularly in a 6,000 word piece, there's ample time to be like, well, that may be her view of events. However, Justice Rangier said this, blah, blah, blah said this. The Australian public has done this. It was off. It feels really off, all of it. And look, Lord have mercy, but I will give a shout out to The Australian because their book review.
I did this one for the Labor Party.
Just sign of the cross over the shoulder. I don't know what else I can do. But it started with, Carolyn Overington's book review started with, plenty of people will go straight to the index of Ita Buttrose's new book to look up Lattouf Antoinette. They'll be disappointed. Her name doesn't appear. Right at the beginning, it sets that what people will expect. And I low-key love that the first thing people will be doing is going to the index of her book and looking up my name, that my name is associated with Ita Buttrose and her shameful behaviour towards me. Like, I'm like, well,
I
kind of love that.
Yeah. And like that just gives me perfect cause not to read the book because it's like, oh, but that's what I was going there for.
Yeah.
Like I want the shade and the tea on what happened at the ABC. Like reading this in the year of our Lord 2025, that's the point. And if it's not in there, well, I'm good, I think. She was also on A Current Affair and, again, there was a 40-minute interview that was on YouTube, part of the ACCA podcast, and I think a 15-minute piece that appeared on the show. And it was all started with the, nostalgia of Ita and all these old clips and Ita talking about sex and her life. And it's not until we get to, again, 3/4 through that we get this bit about you.
Dismissed by the ABC after sharing this Human Rights Watch post about Israel using starvation as a weapon.
Antoinette Lattouf's unlawful termination, did you ever question how that was handled?
Well, now when I left, we were going to settle. So what happened between then and when the case eventually came to trial, God only knows.
God only knows.
They were never going to settle. There was never a point in any of the negotiations over the protracted almost 2-year legal battle did we ever get the indication that the ABC was going to do the right thing and settle. So, and that's also trying to kind of distance herself. Well, we were going to do the right thing when I was there and then I left and I don't know what happened. I call bullshit.
And it's a very similar tone to what she said in The Good Weekend, like, well, David told me to pass the emails on and Chris is new.
Yeah.
This is just another version of like, well, when I was there, we were going to settle. And what happened between then and I don't know. There's also just, I'm not going to play it because I feel like we've already kind of like played this a bit too much, but there was a video on the Good Weekend Instagram as well, because it didn't just end with the Good Weekend article. There was a podcast and a little Instagram video. And she was talking about the 3 most important changes that have happened during her time, which is the better education of women and the employment of women outside the house. And then the third one, which she really had to think about, had to do with seeing women hold down really good jobs.
Except this one. Has Antoinette been replaced yet? We owe her nothing.
I just was like, that is so wild. Like,
look,
with no hint of irony.
It's wild that she said it, but it's even more wild that was clipped up and put on Instagram.
Well,
and the comments went off. Like, people were like, what in the alternate reality is this?
Well, no.
And then they turned the comments off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because when I got to it, the comments had already been turned off.
Well, yeah.
But I shared it onto my stories. And girl, I don't think I've ever seen a story be seen or commented on this much by people.
Yeah.
And when I say I touched my phone 5 times during the holiday, it was because of that.
Yeah.
So, and this is where I feel like I'm living in like an alternate reality, as you said. Like, who's in the right reality? Because this just reads as just wild to me. I'm like, is somebody having a laugh at the Good Weekend? I can't quite understand it. And I'm trying to like make sense of all of this. And I genuinely feel like there is something that I am missing about Ita Buttrose. And I've been reflecting on it. I think it is a real thing, which is I'm missing the inherited deference that comes,
or the nostalgia to her as a trailblazer in media.
I don't
in the
have any
early-
of it.
Yeah, we don't. But many other Australians do, because so many have written to me and said, "Oh, I always saw her as an icon. This has changed my view so much."
Right.
You know, even my mother used to really like her. She liked seeing her on TV in the I think the 80s or the 90s. So I think older generations certainly spent a lot of time getting to know her, and certainly had many that have contacted me had a different image of what she was, and what she represented. We probably don't have that. Because of our age, and because it kind of speaks of like, you know, middle-class white women, gatekeepers of the media, which is kind of, you know, gross and has never been good to people like us.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know a single person in my family, dead or alive, who has ever read the Australian Women's Weekly.
Yeah.
Like, I've never picked up a copy of Clio magazine. It was not for me.
Right.
It was all just like skinny white people sleeping over at their friend's house. Like, bitch, what?
Yeah.
That does not happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Talking about sex, like, Arabs don't talk about sex. What are you
Yeah,
talking about? You know? So she never felt like she was for me. And I only came here in 1989. I don't know what happened before then. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have, like I said, the inherited deference, like the inherited cultural code. And she's so like tied up with Australiana. I just want to give you a little piece in the story, in the Good Weekend piece, where they say it's not too much of a stretch to say the story of Ita Buttrose is the story of Australia in the second half of the 20th century. And I just read that
Whose
and I was
Australia's that, bro?
like, #can't relate.
Yeah, I think like most of the like a big chunk of the population can't relate.
You reckon?
Yeah.
But so, yeah, that's why when I see these like extremely deferential pieces written in the Good Weekend, and then the ACCA interview, and then, you know, all over the Instagram page, and it's like, I don't get it. I don't,
Yeah.
and I'm glad I don't get it, because I think it's clouding some people's judgment, to be completely honest.